The Oxford Dictionary defines imposter syndrome as the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. So have you ever had thoughts that you aren't good enough, that you aren't qualified enough, that you are faking it, or that you will be found out and embarrassed when the world learns the truth? If so, you are not alone. Welcome to the Nopalera podcast, a place where I share the journey of building my company from the ground up, as well as the stories of others in our community. I am your host, Sandra Velasquez, founder of Nopalera, a culture-forward brand that celebrates and elevates culture. Aside from making great products, we are cultural storytellers with a mission to inspire our community to stand in their worth. In this podcast, you will hear a mix of solo and guest episodes around the entrepreneurial realities of building a company. I launched Nopalera from my Brooklyn apartment with no outside funding while working 3 jobs, raising my child in the middle of the pandemic at the age of 44. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope it inspires you to live boldly. Hey friends, I'm closing out Women's History Month with a short solo episode on a topic that has come up regularly when talking to other new business owners, imposter syndrome. Real quick before I dive in, I want to remind you about this special code just for you guys, the podcast listeners, which is going to end at the end of this month. It's Her Story 20, so HERSTORY 20 for 20% off the Nopalera website. Imposter syndrome is a form of sabotage. It can keep you from trying, proceeding, and worse, enjoying your progress. The Oxford Dictionary defines imposter syndrome as the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. So have you ever had thoughts that you aren't good enough, that you aren't qualified enough, that you are faking it, or that you will be found out and embarrassed when the world learns the truth? If so, you are not alone. Quick anecdote. Back when I was doing my master's degree at NYU 20 years ago, the head of my master's program had a very transparent speech at our orientation, which I still remember to this day. And she admitted that every time the phone rang, she feared it was going to be the dean telling her that she was fired because they had found her out, that she was not actually qualified for the job to run this department. Truth be told, you guys, I don't have imposter syndrome, and I think it has a lot to do with how I was raised. My parents never told me that I wasn't good enough at something. And don't get me wrong, I was grounded a lot. I got in trouble a lot, but that's another story. I also had determination modeled to me by my mother. She was and is a go-getter. No one or nothing can stop her or tell her no. Just ask my dad. So this combo really normalized my ability to just go for it, just try, like don't overthink it. And side note, I can also say that now as a mother myself, I have a 15-year-old daughter. The most important thing that I can give my daughter is self-esteem and confidence. Okay, but what if you don't have these things and you didn't grow up this way? So here are some ways to combat imposter syndrome. Number 1, understand and identify the voice in your head. So there was a previous episode that I did with Anabel Quintanilla, which you guys should listen to, about thought work, right? The thoughts in our head are just thoughts. They're not reality. They're just thoughts, and we get to decide what thoughts we have. But first, we have to identify and understand that those thoughts are there. So you have a thought, and that thought is telling you you're not good enough. Someone's going to find you out. So now look at the facts. Are those thoughts actual facts, or is it an opinion in your head, right? Is that thought helping you actually get the work done? That's actually the most important question, because if it's not, then you need to let that thought go and replace it with a new thought. And then number 3, reframe everything around the idea of growth. And I think that this is one of the greatest gifts that I learned from being a professional musician, where it was a lot of, no's and failures and not getting what I wanted, but understanding that I was progressing, even if it wasn't as fast as I wanted to, or whatever it was, reframing everything that you're doing as growth. Like, you need to fail in order to learn. Nobody escapes failure, right? And if anyone is telling you that they have escaped failure, they are just lying. So reframe all of your actions around growth. Maybe you didn't do something how you wanted to the first time. Fine, but what did you learn? Did you learn something? I hope so, because now next time you go to do it again, you're going to do it with that knowledge and that experience. And that's ultimately how you build confidence, is by doing. You do something and then you're like, wow, I did it. Great. Now you have a little bit more confidence to go and do it again or try something else. So, reframing all of your actions, especially those of us that are building businesses, whatever you're doing in your life around growth. Not every relationship that I have been in has succeeded, but I have grown. And that is the greatest gift, is to grow. So, Rick Rubin is, as you guys know, I was a professional musician, so I'm going to give a little music anecdote here. Rick Rubin is one of the most famous music producers of our lifetime. And yet, he does not play an instrument. He doesn't know how to use a mixing board. He can't read music. And guess what? He's not going to learn anytime soon. You know, one of the quotes from his book, he recently released a book, is if you have an idea you're excited about and you don't bring it to life, it is not uncommon for that idea to find its voice through another maker. And this isn't because the other person stole your idea, but because the idea, its time has come. So I really want to encourage all of you that are suffering from imposter syndrome or having thoughts that you're not good enough to keep going and keep learning and reframing everything that you're doing around growth. Do not let thoughts in your head prevent you from getting to your own finish line. And I would also like to add that you do not have to be good at everything. Please let that shit go. The most important thing that you can do, honestly, is to get to know yourself. Understand your strengths. And just because something comes easy to you does not mean that it's actually easy, number one, or that it's not important. It is likely hard for someone else. I want to leave you with one final question. If not you, then who? Bonus alert! In honor of Women's History Month, we are offering our podcast subscribers, that means you, a code for 20% off anything on our website. Use the code HERSTORY20, that's HERSTORY20 at checkout for the entire month of March. This cannot be combined with any other discounts. Thank you for being here with us. Remember to leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening from. Spread the word so we can impact and grow the community. If you are an entrepreneur looking for more real talk and resources, you can join my entrepreneurial newsletter from my personal website, sandralilavelasquez.com. But also visit nopalera.co to pick up your favorite self-care items for yourself and your loved ones. Join the Nopalera mailing list to be the first to hear about new products, exclusive promos. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at nopalera.co. Stay resilient.